What were some of the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs?
For many years Tyrannosaurus rex, whose name means king of the tyrant lizards, reigned as the biggest and meanest of the carnivorous dinosaurs. At 40 feet, 12 meters, and with a head nearly 5 feet, 1.5 meters, long and teeth 6 inches, 15 centimeters, long, t. Rex was definitely not a dinosaur you'd want to meet face to face. But some dinosaur bones discovered in the early 1990s show that T. Rex was not the biggest carnivorous dinosaur ever to have terrorized the planet. Giganotosaurus, pronounced Giganotosaurus, was slightly longer at nearly 42 feet, 12.6 meters, long. It lived about 30 million years before T-Rex. Scientists believe there are other ferocious meat-eaters that were even larger than the Giganotosaurus.
Where do things go when they're flushed down the toilet?
When there were far fewer people in the world, things like used water and waste were transported from homes and businesses by sewer pipes to large bodies of water, where they were released. Sewage disposal then consisted of allowing waste to mix with the fresh water or salt water, which would dilute it. Now, with so much waste in our highly industrialized and overpopulated world, sewage must go through treatment processes in order to keep the waters of the world safe. The decomposition, or breaking down, of waste, by bacteria, uses up a great deal of oxygen. And if decomposition of sewage were to occur in a river or lake, the animals and plants that live there wouldn't have enough of the gases oxygen and carbon dioxide they need to live. Certain waste products, like human and animal feces, also carry harmful bacteria that can cause infectious diseases when they are concentrated in large amounts and people have contact with them. So when you flush your toilet, or let dirty water run down your drain, the waste is on its way to a sewage treatment plant to protect you and the environment. It travels down pipes in your home to larger sewer pipes that run underground, some so large that waste flows through them like a river. Sometimes collected groundwater and rainwater empty into sewers, too, along the way to the treatment plant. Waste from other homes and businesses in your community join the flow. In some communities, where homes and businesses are or once were located far from one another and a sewer system is impractical, waste is often emptied into large septic tanks that are buried near each property underground. Much of the waste in a septic tank is decomposed by bacteria. But every so often, these tanks must be emptied and cleaned. When waste arrives at a sewage treatment plant, it is filtered through a large metal grill. This grill traps large objects that can't be processed. Small stones and sand are also filtered out. Once cleaned and dried, These materials can be used for building work and road repair. Now a smelly, soupy mixture, the sewage that's gone through the grill is put into an enormous tank where solid particles eventually fall to the bottom. This muddy sludge goes into a special processing tank where bacteria feed on it and break it down into harmless material. During this decomposition, a gas called methane is produced. It is burned to boil water and produce steam, which provides the power that runs the pumps in the sewage treatment plant. Treated sludge, which is nutrient-rich, can be used as manure. Once separated from sludge in the settling tank, waste liquid is pumped to filter beds, where it is cleaned. This cleaning is done by allowing the liquid to drip through layers of stones that are covered by bacteria, which eat any waste that remains. Clean water results and is pumped back into rivers, lakes, or the sea.
How do spiders spin webs?
Not all spiders spin webs, but most do. The webs can be spun into many different shapes, and they are used to protect eggs, catch insects for food, or move a spider through the air. Most spiders possess 3 pairs of tube-like spinnerets near the ends of their bodies that produce a fluid that hardens as it is drawn out into silky threads. Spider webs look delicate, but they are actually very strong. When compared with an equal amount of steel, spider silk is 5 times stronger. Spider webs do not last long. They are damaged by the capture of prey or by weather conditions. And some webs simply dry out after a day or two. Some spiders need to spin a new web every day, a task that can take about an hour. Rather than spin a web, certain spiders spin a silk tube with a trapdoor at one end. They hide in the tube until they feel the vibrations of a passing insect. Then they dart out and capture their meal.
Do snakes have bones in their bodies?
Snakes have such flexible and winding bodies. It seems strange to think that they have bones under those scales. Snakes do not have any arms or legs, but they do have bones in their skull, and they have a long backbone. The backbone is made up of vertebrae, plural of vertebra, the segments that make up the spinal column in all vertebrates. And a pair of ribs is attached to each vertebra above the tail section. Therefore, very long snakes have more vertebrae, and more ribs than any other kind of animal. Some snakes have more than 400 vertebrae, people have 12. The way the vertebrae fit together allows for swiveling flexibility in both side-to-side and up and down motions, allowing the snake to move the way it does without straining its skeleton.
What does it mean if an animal is an endangered species?
There are many organizations in the United States and all over the world that study and research plant and animal species, determining which ones may be headed for extinction. Any species in such danger is described as endangered. Once a species is endangered, it becomes illegal to hunt that animal or destroy its habitat. In 2001, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the organization that maintains the nation's list of endangered and threatened plants and animals, listed over 1,000 animals and nearly 750 plants worldwide. Threatened species are those that might soon become endangered. The goal of such organizations is to help a species recover to the point that it no longer needs to be listed as endangered.
Where do medicines come from?
Medicines or drugs are chemical substances used to prevent, treat, or stop diseases, to heal wounds, and to stop pain. Since ancient times, people have used natural products from plants, animals, and minerals in the earth to help themselves and others. For example, a substance called digitalin, found in the leaves of the flowering foxglove plant, has long been used to help people with heart problems. Likewise, the dried sap of the seed pod of a certain poppy plant, opium, has a long history of use as a powerful painkiller. Even today, about 25% of all the drugs that doctors prescribe and many more medicines that can be bought over the counter, meaning without a prescription, are made from plant products. Scientists have yet to explore the full potential of plant-based medicines. Many useful plants come from the world's rainforests, which are unfortunately being destroyed at a rapid rate. Companies that make drugs study the healing effects of natural substances and try to recreate similar substances in laboratories. They test these and other man-made chemicals on samples of diseased and ailing cells, on animals, and sometimes on people over long periods of time. If these substances are shown to be useful, without causing harmful side effects, they are then sold as new drugs. In the United States, a government agency called the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, controls the testing and marketing of new medicines, making sure that they are safe and effective.
How do helicopters fly?
Although a helicopter doesn't have wings like an airplane, it uses the same principle of lift to rise and maneuver in the air. The blades of a helicopter's propeller-like top rotor are shaped just like a plane's wings, flat on the bottom and rounded on the top, and are likewise adjustable. Instead of rushing forward through the air like a plane does to gather enough lift to fly, a helicopter moves only its 3 to 6 rotor blades, which are attached to a central shaft driven by an engine. The rotor blades slice through enough air, creating the changes in surrounding air pressure that produce lift to achieve flight. Adjusting the angle at which the rotor blades are set helps control a helicopter's lift and manner of flight. Because the angle of the rotor is adjustable, too, a helicopter has far greater maneuverability than an airplane. Besides moving up, down, and forward, it can fly backwards and hover in the air. One problem with a helicopter's design is the spinning force of its main rotor. As the rotor blades of a helicopter turn, its shaft pushes back on the craft, trying to spin it in the opposite direction. The helicopter would spin out of control if it were not for an equal, counteracting force. This force is supplied by a second, smaller rotor located vertically on the craft's tail. Acting like a propeller, the thrust from this rotor pushes the tail in the direction opposite the twisting force of the main rotor. A helicopter pilot can adjust the thrust of this tail rotor in order to turn his or her craft. Some large helicopters that carry heavy loads have two top rotors, which supply twice as much lift. In such cases there is no need for a tail rotor because each horizontal rotor spins in an opposite direction.
Which dinosaurs were the smallest?
When most people think of dinosaurs, they picture the huge ones, like the giant plant-eating sauropods or the large carnivores, meat-eaters, like Tyrannosaurus rex. But some dinosaurs were actually very small. The smallest of them may have been the Compsognathus, pronounced Compsahgnathus, which was only about as big as a chicken.
Why do trees have bark?
The cells that make up plants have walls made mostly of a material called cellulose that vary in thickness. In young, flexible plants, cell walls are thin and elastic. As a plant reaches full size, its cell walls have grown several layers, making it more rigid. A plant's firm cell walls help give it its shape. Even after plant cells die, their firm walls can help support a plant. A plant as big as a tree needs a lot of support. The cells that form a tree's bark covering its trunk and branches have extremely tough walls. Outer bark is really a thick shell of dead cells that protect softer, living tissues inside. Outer bark keeps a tree from losing too much water, which could happen easily in a plant so large. It also keeps many insects and other damaging things like fungi from reaching a tree's living center. Bark can protect a tree in very cold or very hot weather too. The living, inner bark of a tree is made of long, stiff-walled xylem cells, arranged like tubes or pipes, which transport water and minerals from its roots. Located inside that bark is a spongy wood center made of similarly arranged, thinner-walled phloem cells, which distribute the tree's food supply that has been manufactured in its leaves. The strength, weight, and hardness of the woods of different trees depend on the size of their cells and the way they are arranged together. Certain chemicals in woods give them their different scents, colors, and other characteristics.
How are caves formed?
Caves are hollows in rock, either above or below ground. They are almost always formed when water wears away or dissolves rock. Although disturbances in Earth's crust like earthquakes and volcanoes can also create caves. When ocean waves crash against rocky cliffs, they carve out caves there over time. When an underground stream or rainwater repeatedly flows across the cracks of soft rock, like limestone, or seeps through it, the rock slowly dissolves, and a cave is formed. The world's deepest cave is at Rousseau-Jean-Bernard, located in France. It is 5,036 feet, 1,535 meters, deep. In Kentucky, at Mammoth Cave National Park, visitors can see the longest cave system. A series of connected caves, in the world. It extends more than 330 miles, 530 kilometers. It would seem that nothing could live or grow in deep caves or long cave systems, so far away from sunlight. But cave explorers have found that this is not true. Caves are home to some strange plants and animals that have adapted to their sunless surroundings. Many have no color or pigment, neither of which would serve a purpose in their pitch-black world. Some animals are sightless for the same reason. Caves are fascinating places because they were the first homes of prehistoric men and women. Before they learned to build shelters. Caves often hold clues to what life was like when people were in their earliest stages of development. Fossil remains, ancient tools, and even primitive paintings made by cave dwellers can be found in some caves.
Why do mosquitoes bite?
Just female mosquitoes bite, male mosquitoes feed only on fruit and plant juices. The female mosquito bites people, and other animals, to feed on their blood. She needs blood so that her eggs can develop properly before they are laid. One way a female mosquito locates a victim is by feeling the body heat of an animal as she flies by it.
What is bioluminescence?
Bioluminescence is the ability of some organisms, like fireflies, to light up. This phenomenon occurs in some protozoa, fungi, ocean-dwelling invertebrates, such as some species of shrimp and squid, and even some fish, anglerfish and hatchetfish. It does not occur in more highly developed animals like birds, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. The light results from a chemical reaction, and scientists believe it serves a variety of functions in animals. Sometimes animals use their light to confuse or scare their enemies. And sometimes it is used to attract a mate. For some deep-sea creatures, their body light may help them see in an otherwise completely dark environment.
Where does sand come from?
The rock particles that make up soil come in different sizes and are given different names to show this. Sand, often called a grain, is a piece of rock that measures from 0.0024 to 0.08 inches. 0.06 to 2 millimeters, across. Sand results when larger rocks disintegrate, eroded by water, weather, and glaciers. The two greatest deposits of sand on Earth's surface can be found in deserts and on beaches. When soil consists mostly of sand, its large grains cannot hold the water or nutrients needed. For healthy plant growth, one reason you don't see many plants in the desert or on the beach. When you look closely at a handful of sand, you may find that the grains are really many different colors. This is because sand comes from several different kinds of rocks. Sand may appear brown, yellow, white, or even black, when it comes from certain volcanic rock. The sand of some beaches may also have grains made of organic material, the remains of living creatures, like shells and coral instead of rock.
What causes a drippy nose?
Several conditions can cause a drippy nose. When your eyes have an extra amount of tears in them, either from crying or from getting something in your eyes, some of the excess tears empty into ducts located at their inside corners and travel down into your nose. A head cold, a virus that can infect your eyes, nose, and throat, often causes swelling and fluid and mucus production in the lining of the nose as your body tries to fight the infection. This mucus then drips out of your nose. Cold weather can also make your nose run. When you first breathe cold air into your nose, it shocks the delicate lining, which constricts and then expands, producing protective fluid and mucus. Your nose eventually adjusts to the cold air, though, and works normally again.
Which animal is the deadliest?
The poison dart frog, found in the rainforests of the South American country Colombia, produces one of the most toxic poisons in the animal kingdom. Many amphibians, the animal group to which frogs belong, produce toxins that make their skin taste bad, so predators won't want to eat them. Some frogs, usually the brightly colored ones, produce poisonous secretions that can harm or even kill their enemies. The toxin made by the poison dart frog, if it enters an animal's bloodstream, can paralyze and even kill. There are many different types of these frogs, the most poisonous being a bright yellow frog whose toxin can kill a human if it gets into the person's mouth or into an open wound. The toxin can even work its way through unbroken skin. As little as 1 drop of this frog's poison can cause the heart to stop beating. Certain tribes in Colombia use the poison dart frog secretions, obtained without killing the frogs, to coat their darts and arrows, hence the name given to the frog.
Where do people live in cities?
Big cities have a lot of things to offer residents and visitors, but one thing they don't have is space. The people who live in a city can't spread out, but they can spread up. City dwellers usually make their homes in apartment buildings or condominiums that are several stories high. These allow a large number of people to be housed on a little bit of land. Some of these buildings have hundreds of residents. High-rise homes have actually been around for centuries. In ancient Rome, poor people lived in multi-story apartments. In Yemen, a country in Southwest Asia, high-rise homes made of mud bricks have been used for more than 1,000 years. Without modern building materials like steel and concrete, though, multi-story buildings can't rise very high, because they become too heavy to be supported by their foundations.
Why does hair turn gray or white when a person gets old?
A pigment called melanin is responsible for hair color, as well as for skin and eye color. The darker the hair of a person, the more melanin in that person's hair. As people age, the supply of melanin to their hair may stop. Pigment-containing cells live and ordinarily multiply in the hair root. While an aging person's hair still grows, the lack of melanin in it makes it gray or white.
If fish breathe oxygen, why can't they survive on land?
Some fish can breathe on land. Of these, a few actually must breathe air. These are called obligate air breathers. Others, like the eel-like lungfish, the bowfin, and the gar, are adapted to breathe either air or water. These fish probably evolved to breathe air because they live in warmer water where oxygen is present in smaller amounts. For the most part, however, fish must get their oxygen from water and not from air. If such fish are taken out of water, they suffocate. Fish are able to get oxygen from water through the many tiny blood vessels spread over the surface area of their gills. When fish are out of water, their gill arches collapse, and the blood vessels are no longer exposed to the oxygen in the air. Even fish that can breathe air must still live primarily in the water because it is in water that they are capable of movement. If they can't move, they can't get food or escape from enemies.
What causes snoring?
When people breathe through their mouths rather than their noses when they sleep. Because the nasal passageways are swollen or stuffed for some reason, snoring may occur. The rough, hoarse snoring noise results when the soft tissue at the back of the roof of the mouth, called the soft palate, vibrates during breathing. Males snore far more often than females. Scientists think that may be because men are generally bigger and have more tissue in their soft palates. Some people snore so loudly that they wake themselves up.
Are there any poisonous lizards?
Two lizards are known to inject venom into their prey, the Gila, pronounced Heluh, monster, and the Mexican beaded lizard. The Gila, found in northern Mexico and the southwestern United States, produces venom that is secreted into grooves in their teeth. When they bite into their prey, the venom gets into the other animal's blood. Around 20 inches, 50 centimeters, long, Gila monsters eat small mammals and birds as well as eggs. They have been known to bite people, but while their bites may be painful, they rarely cause serious harm to humans. The Mexican beaded lizard, a close relative to the Gila, can be a bit larger, around 31 inches, or 80 centimeters. It lives throughout much of Mexico and parts of Central America. Both of these lizards, during seasons when food is hard to find, can live for months off fat stored in their tails.
How many suckers does an octopus have on its arms?
The common octopus has 240 suckers lined up in 2 rows on each arm. Multiply 240 by 8 arms, and you can calculate that this octopus has 1,920 suckers. Its suckers are extremely powerful, and the octopus uses them to move along the sea bottom and to capture and hold its prey. The suckers don't just stick like suction cups to whatever they touch, however the octopus can control what it wants to hold in its grip. And if it needs to swim away quickly, it can instantly release the suction. Octopuses eat mainly crustaceans like crabs and lobsters. The octopus's mouth is located in the center of the skirt, which is the tissue at the base of the arms. It uses sharp beak-like structures and a built-in file, called a radula, in its mouth to tear away the shells of its prey. Octopuses are, in turn, eaten by a number of large fish as well as by humans.
What is the largest bird?
The ostrich is the largest living bird, some extinct species were larger. Found primarily in Africa, the male ostrich can grow to be nearly 8 feet, 2.5 meters tall, with its neck making up almost half of its height. Females are a bit smaller. Ostriches can weigh almost 350 pounds, 159 kilograms. These flightless birds travel in groups and can frequently be found in the company of other grazing animals. People have harvested ostrich feathers for hundreds of years to decorate hats and other items. And in recent years ostrich meat has become more popular.
Why does the moon change shape?
The moon never really changes shape. But the part of the moon that reflects sunlight, which is the only part of the moon we see, varies throughout the month. It takes the moon about 30 days to make a complete orbit around Earth. During that time its position relative to the Sun and Earth changes constantly. These positions are called phases of the moon. The part of the moon that faces us can look like a disk, full moon, a half moon, a slim crescent, or no moon at all, new moon.
What causes bad breath?
Poor dental care is a major cause of bad breath. Old food particles between teeth and odor-producing mouth bacteria, as well as tooth decay and infected gums, can give breath a bad smell. Brushing your teeth for at least 2 minutes a couple times a day, flossing, and even brushing your tongue, the home to lots of bacteria, can make a big difference. Sometimes bad breath can be caused by something you eat, certain foods, like onions or garlic, contain smelly substances that are absorbed into your bloodstream and then released into your lungs, causing bad breath. This smelliness will only last about a day, however, until the food leaves your body. Once in a while, bad breath can be caused by an illness in the body.
Which lizard is the biggest?
The Komodo dragon, part of the monitor family of lizards, is the largest living lizard. It can grow to be 10 feet, 3 meters, long, and it can weigh up to 300 pounds, 136 kilograms. The Komodo dragon has been known to attack and kill humans. And sometimes it will even eat members of its own species. But generally its diet consists of carrion, which is the flesh of animals that are already dead. Found on Komodo Island in Indonesia, this lizard has been popular with collectors of rare and exotic animals. And because of that the Komodo dragon is nearly extinct. The Komodo dragon is now protected by laws that prohibit people from hunting or capturing it.
Why do beavers build dams?
Beavers have amazing construction and engineering skills. They are among few animals that make dramatic changes to their environment to provide shelter for themselves and their young. Beavers are semi-aquatic, which means they spend much of their time in water. Usually streams, rivers, and lakes. These hard-working creatures build dams using sticks, branches, mud, and anything else they can find to change the course of a stream, sending some of the stream's water to flood another area in order to create a small pond. In that pond they can then build a lodge, a large domed structure where the beaver family can spend the winter. The lodge is built of the same materials used for the dam. Beavers use their long, powerful teeth to cut down branches and even whole trees. They then drag or float the wood over to the side of the lodge. Sometimes using canals, or narrow passages filled with water, that they built themselves. They pack the sticks together using mud, which freezes in the winter, turning the beaver lodge into a strong fort that predators can't get into. While the lodge itself sticks out above the surface of the water, sometimes nearly 6 feet. Or almost 2 meters, the entrance to the lodge is underwater, giving the beavers further protection. In the months before winter approaches, beavers begin stockpiling food, including water plants, branches, and leaves. They anchor their food stash in the water just outside the lodge's entrance. So throughout the winter their food supply is nearby. Beavers have thick, shiny coats that have long been attractive to people in the fur trade. The North American beaver nearly became extinct in the 1930s due to extensive trapping for its fur. Another notable feature of these animals is their broad, flat tails that can be up to a foot long in some larger beavers. Beavers use their tails to steer when they are swimming and to help prop them up when they are standing. They also use them to communicate with other beavers, slapping their tails on the water to produce a loud warning sound when a predator approaches.
Are spiders insects?
Many people think of spiders as insects, but actually they are classified in a separate category. Spiders are part of a group called arachnids, which also includes mites, ticks, and scorpions. Arachnids share many features with their arthropod cousins, but they differ in that they do not have antennae. Also, spiders have 8 legs, insects have 6. And their bodies are segmented into 2 parts, insects' bodies have 3 parts.
What is the most widely read book in the world?
The world's best-selling book is the Bible. During the past 2 centuries alone, it has sold an estimated 3.88 billion copies. The Bible, made up primarily of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Is the Holy Book of Christianity, the most widely practiced religion in the world today. The Old Testament, which covers events before the birth of Jesus Christ, constitutes the Jewish Bible.
How did the days of the week get their names?
In the English language, some of the days of the week take their names from the celestial bodies that, according to ancient beliefs, ruled that day. So the day ruled by the sun became Sunday, the day ruled by the moon became Monday. And the day ruled by the planet Saturn became Saturday. The remaining days of the week take their names from figures in Anglo-Saxon or Norse mythology. Tuesday is named for the Anglo-Saxon god of war, Tiu, which is Mars in Roman mythology. Wednesday is named for Woden, the Anglo-Saxon name for the chief Norse god Odin. Thursday gets its name from Thor, the god of thunder in Norse mythology. Friday is named either after Freya, the Norse goddess of love and fertility, or Frigg, the wife of Odin and the representative of beauty and love.
Where does meat come from?
Meat is the flesh of any animal that is used for food. It is usually the muscle and connective tissue of an animal. Though organs like the liver and heart are also eaten. Cattle, sheep, and pigs provide most of the meat that people eat. People in different parts of the world usually eat more of one kind of meat than another. Usually because certain animals are easier to raise in particular environments. In the Middle East, for instance, sheep thrive on land that is too dry for cattle. Therefore, lamb and mutton, flesh from mature sheep, are the main meats eaten there. Cattle, the source of beef, are raised in big herds and need a lot of grazing room. So large countries that have a lot of pasture land like Argentina, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States raise the most cattle and eat the most beef. Wild cattle were tamed or domesticated about 9,000 years ago. They were valued as much for the work that they did carrying and pulling heavy loads as for the milk and meat that they provided. Over time, farmers developed breeds that were meant only to provide meat. Looking quite different from slim, long-legged dairy cows. Beef cattle have wide fleshy bodies and short legs. Today, livestock animals that are ready for market are usually shipped from the farms or ranches on which they're raised to big meat processing centers near large cities, where the food they provide is most needed. After they are slaughtered, their meat is packaged and sent to markets near and far. With the help of refrigerated trucks, trains, and ships. Other animal body parts like hides, hoofs, and bones are also put to good use. Making leather goods, fertilizers, and other products.
How is a pony different from a horse?
A pony is exactly like any other horse. The only difference is its size. Officially, a pony is any small horse that measures under 14.2 hands. About 57 inches or 145 centimeters, high at the withers, the ridge between the shoulder bones. The hand is the standard unit used to measure a horse's height, it equals 4 inches. Most ponies, however, are only around 26 inches, 65 centimeters, high. Beginning about 5,000 years ago, people began to tame or domesticate wild horses. Over time, they bred the animals to serve certain purposes. This selective breeding was done by mating male and female horses with special characteristics like size or speed that would then appear in their offspring. Some horses were bred to be large and strong. These were used to carry knights in heavy armor or as work horses to pull heavy carts or farm equipment. Some horses were bred to be swift and were used for hunting or racing. Ponies were mostly bred in the British Isles, where pasture land was scarce. Smaller horses have smaller appetites and don't require as much land for grazing. Despite their small size, ponies were bred to be sturdy and hard-working. They were sometimes used to pull carts filled with ore. The natural materials from which metals are made, through the small tunnels in mines. They were also bred to have gentle natures. This feature, along with their size, make them ideal for children to ride.
How do they know how to do that?
Scientists have studied migratory patterns of many different species. And they have developed theories as to how birds can find their way, but ultimately, they don't know for sure what techniques birds use. Birds might use the stars and the moon to guide their way, or they may have a sort of internal compass that helps them detect Earth's magnetic field, thereby showing them which way is north. Some birds may also be able to detect low-level sounds made by ocean waves. Sounds that can provide clues about direction. Perhaps many birds are capable of using more than one navigational technique. If not, the birds that use the stars to find their way would be lost on cloudy nights.
How many people are there in the world?
The ancient Romans ruled much of the known world around AD 100. There were an estimated 250 million people on Earth. It took nearly 16 centuries for that population to double, to about 500 million people. By the mid-1800s, the Industrial Revolution had brought about such improvements in living conditions, as well as in food production and distribution, that the world's population doubled again, to 1 billion people. By 1930 that number had reached 2 billion. By 2000 the number of people on Earth exceeded 6 billion. The world's population is increasing as never before, due to scientific advances in medicine and technology, and continued improvements in healthcare, living conditions, and food production around the world. Most countries no longer have the high death rates that were once unavoidable because of hunger and disease. And high birth rates continue in many parts of the world, contributing to our rapid population growth.
If you want people to be nice to you, and who doesn't?
Then it is wise to be nice to them. Courteous, kind behavior not only makes the people you're dealing with feel good, it can make you feel good too. You've probably noticed that being nice is contagious, spreading good feelings to lots of people. Not only that, but you'll find you get what you want a lot more often when you're behaving pleasantly than if you're whining or ordering people around. Imagine if each person made the effort to be more respectful and thoughtful, the whole world would run a lot more smoothly.
What is a toadstool?
A toadstool is simply a mushroom, the reproductive part of certain fungal growths that has an umbrella or cone-shaped cap on a straight stem. Because mushrooms often grow in cool, moist, dark places, where most toads like to live, and because they are shaped like little stools, the name toadstool arose to describe them. Usually the term toadstool is used when talking about a type of mushroom that is not suitable for eating or is poisonous. The practice of calling such mushrooms toadstools may have come from the fact that some toads emit poisonous fluid through their skin.
Will people be cloned someday?
The breakthroughs in cloning technology made by the Roslin scientists and several other scientists since then who have successfully cloned mice, monkeys, and cows have raised new hopes, and fears, that the technology to clone a human being is within reach. Some scientists believe that the first successful cloning of a human being will happen before the end of this century's first decade. The method to clone a human will most likely be the same as that used to clone Dolly the sheep. The cloning of mammals and the possibility of cloning a person has sparked many arguments about whether it's right or wrong to conduct such experiments. While some argue that cloning can yield tremendous benefits, others worry that the technology is ripe for abuse. Many politicians and scientists have called for a worldwide ban on human cloning until further research can be conducted. Some countries have agreed and instituted such a ban.
How many different kinds of animals are there?
Experts estimate that over 1 million different kinds of animals have been identified in the world. There may be millions more, particularly insect species, that have not yet been identified or discovered by scientists. Hundreds of years ago, scientists began dividing the animal kingdom into categories based on certain characteristics like body type, ways of reproducing, and what the animals can do: fly, swim, walk on two legs, and so on. The animal kingdom, and every other kingdom as well, is divided and subdivided into numerous other categories. If animal classification categories were viewed as an upside-down pyramid, kingdom, the largest and broadest classification, would be at the top. The animal kingdom is divided into several different parts, called phyla. The singular form of that word is phylum. Each phylum is further divided into classes. The other levels of division are order, family, genus, and species, with species being the tip of that upside-down pyramid, or the most specific way to categorize. When scientists give the official name for a type of animal, they use the genus and species names. Human beings are part of the genus Homo and the species Sapiens. Therefore, our scientific name is Homo sapiens.
How can desert plants live without water?
No plant could live in a true desert, where it never rains. But the places where cacti and other desert plants grow do get rain once in a while, even if it's only every couple of years or so. When it rains, desert plants quickly take up the water through their roots, storing it in fleshy leaves and stems. That stored water allows them to survive until the next rain comes. The roots of desert plants are either very deep, drawing from hidden underground water, or widespread and shallow to best gather the water that hits the ground. Their leaves and stems usually have a heavy, waxy coating to help keep moisture in. The tiny pores, or stomata, on their leaves through which carbon dioxide, oxygen, and water pass are located in pits instead of on the surface to further minimize moisture loss. Some desert plants even keep their stomata closed during the blistering heat of the day and open them in the cool of the night, the reverse of what most plants do. Cactus plants are particularly well adapted to their hot, dry surroundings. Over millions of years, the leaves of cacti became so small to reduce water loss that on many only sharp spines remain. Their thick stems or branches now do the work that leaves ordinarily do, making food through photosynthesis. Often the stems of a cactus are ribbed, allowing any morning dew to run down and be absorbed by the plant's roots. The ribs also allow the plant to expand and contract according to the amount of water it has stored inside. After a good rain, up to 90% of a cactus's weight may be water.
Why do people often say God bless you or Gesundheit after someone sneezes?
back before the development of modern medicines, especially antibiotics. A lot more people died from infectious diseases than they do today. Even things like colds could develop into serious and deadly infections. So a wish for God's blessings or good health, the meaning of the German phrase Gesundheit, developed as an expression of care and concern for the health of the sneezer.
Is the horned toad really a toad?
In spite of its name, the horned toad, also called horny toad, is not a toad, or even an amphibian. The horned toad is actually a lizard, and therefore a reptile, also known more accurately as the horned lizard. It lives in dry, sandy regions in western North America, where it burrows itself up to its head in sand. This animal has a very specialized diet, eating mostly ants, and unusual ways of defending itself from predators. The horned toad can puff itself up to a larger size by sucking in air. And in rare cases, the horned toad has been known to shoot blood out of its eyes to frighten attackers.
What is heaven?
According to many religions based on Judaism and Christianity, heaven is a state of existence where a person's spirit is at last united with God forever. In a number of Christian religions, heaven is believed to be the reward for people who have lived good lives according to certain rules of thought and behavior that God has made known through scriptures. Sacred writings, like the Bible, and through the teachings of churches and religious leaders. Those who have not followed these rules, it is believed by many, go to a place of punishment known as hell. Many Christians believe that at the end of the world their human forms will be resurrected in a perfect state, just as the body of Jesus Christ was when he arose from the dead on Easter morning, and join their souls or spirits in heaven for eternity. This idea has led to the concept that heaven is an actual place located above with physical characteristics. Over the centuries, through pictures and writings, people have tried to create images of heaven, imagining a place of perfect happiness perched atop fluffy white clouds. It has often been portrayed as a place full of things that would bring happiness on earth, possessing, for instance, pearly gates and streets of gold.
Why do hummingbirds hum?
The joke answer: because they don't know the words. The real answer: hummingbirds' wings flap so quickly that they create a high-pitched humming sound. Just as mosquitoes and other insects generate a buzzing sound from their high-speed wing flapping.
Why do people sometimes smell bad after they sweat?
You may be surprised to learn that it's not the sweat itself that smells bad. Sweat is mostly water and salt with small concentrations of various waste products. The odor comes from the bacteria living on your skin. When those bacteria begin working to break down your sweat, they produce an unpleasant odor. Fortunately, the smelly results can be washed away with soap and water in the shower or bath. There are actually two different kinds of sweat glands, eccrine glands and apocrine glands. Eccrine glands are found all over your body, while apocrine glands are concentrated mostly in your armpits and groin area. Apocrine glands get especially active when you hit puberty. Thanks to the extra hormones released in your body during that time. And, as an added bonus, apocrine glands produce a different kind of sweat, with proteins and fatty acids. That has a particularly foul smell referred to as body odor when it combines with the bacteria on your skin. Kids who haven't reached puberty yet can sweat a lot without getting too stinky. Much of their sweat is coming from the eccrine glands, rather than the more potent apocrine glands, which don't really develop until puberty. The high concentration of apocrine glands in the armpits explains why people put deodorant or antiperspirant there and not elsewhere. By the way, deodorant doesn't stop you from sweating, but it neutralizes the bacteria that make sweat smell. Antiperspirant actually blocks pores in your skin, preventing you from sweating. While many people prefer antiperspirants, wishing to control the wetness as well as the odor of sweat, some experts believe it's better to let the sweat, which carries some waste products out of your body, leave naturally instead of being blocked.
How many time zones are there in the United States?
The continental United States, meaning the 48 states on the North American continent, which excludes Hawaii and Alaska, is divided into 4 time zones. From east to west, they are Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. Each of these time zones is 1 hour apart, with times being successively earlier as you move west. So if it's 3 p.m. Eastern Time, it's 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and noon Pacific Time. The Alaska time zone is 1 hour behind Pacific Time, so when it's noon in California, it's 11:00 a.m. in Alaska. Hawaii's time zone for part of the year is 1 hour behind Alaska. Hawaii does not participate in daylight saving time, however, so during that period, from April to October, when most of the U.S. states have set their clocks forward 1 hour, Hawaii stays at standard time and is 2 hours behind Alaska.
Why should I cover my mouth and nose when I cough and sneeze?
Coughing and sneezing spray germs into the air, where other people can breathe them in. It's very common for colds and other infections to be spread from one person to another by the germs expelled when a sick person coughs or sneezes. When you cover your mouth or nose when you cough or sneeze, you catch some germs in your tissue or hands, which keeps them from entering the air. But another common way of spreading germs is through physical contact, especially from the hand of one person to another. So it is important to wash your hands, too, after you cough or sneeze. Even better than covering your mouth with your hand is coughing or sneezing onto your shirt sleeve in the crook of your elbow. That way, the germs from your mouth end up on your sleeve, which is far less likely than your hand to have contact with other people. And the germs on your sleeve will soon die if they aren't passed along to another person.
Why do bicycle tires lose air so fast?
Early bicycle tires were made out of solid rubber. Before that, iron covered the edges of wooden bicycle wheels. Solid rubber tires made bicycling a bumpy experience because they were unable to provide any cushioning on rough roads. When the air-filled rubber bicycle tire was invented, it made riding a lot more comfortable. But along with the comfort of air-filled tires came the frequent task of filling them up. The rubber that is used to make bicycle tires is thin and porous, which means that it has tiny microscopic pores, or holes, through which air can escape over time. Air that is pumped into bicycle tires is pressurized, meaning it is compressed into a much smaller space than it would ordinarily occupy. Without pressurized air inside, a bicycle tire would not have its firm shape. Air under high pressure, like all gases, moves or migrates to surrounding areas that have lower pressure, traveling even through fairly solid materials. So air in a bicycle tire naturally tries to escape through the valve stem that is used to fill it and the inner tube that holds it. So even bicycles that don't undergo the wear and tear of frequent use eventually end up with flat tires.
Are any other planets in our solar system like Earth?
Although scientists believe that all the planets in our solar system were formed at the same time, from the same giant cloud of gas and dust, each is very different from the others. The four planets nearest the Sun: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are known as terrestrial planets, because they are made of rock and metal. The next four planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, are called the gaseous planets. As they are made mostly of such gases as helium and hydrogen, their inner layers are liquids, and they may have rocky cores. Not much is known about Pluto, the farthest planet from the Sun, about 3.66 billion miles away. A small, solid planet, Pluto is thought by some to be made mainly of ice. Some scientists have suggested that Pluto may not be a planet at all. It may simply be a large piece in a band of rocky objects, called the Kuiper belt, that orbits the Sun. The planets of our solar system vary greatly in size, rotation, and other characteristics. The smallest planet, Pluto, has a diameter, the measurement through its widest part, of 1,430 miles, 2,288 kilometers, which makes it smaller than our own moon. Jupiter, on the other hand, has a diameter of 88,700 miles. 141,920 kilometers, which is about 11 times the size of Earth's diameter. If Jupiter were a hollow ball, it would take more than 1,000 Earths to fill it. Jupiter also has the fastest rotation, or spin, on its axis, completing a day and night in just 9 hours, 55 minutes. It takes Jupiter a much longer time than Earth to rotate around the Sun. However, a Jupiter year is 4,333 days. Mercury has one of the slowest axis rotations. It takes 59 Earth days for Mercury to make a complete turn on its axis. But Mercury rotates around the Sun much faster than Earth does. It takes only 88 days, a very short year compared to Earth's 365 days. Because Mercury rotates slowly on its own axis and quickly around the Sun, its days defined as the time from one sunrise to the next are as long as 176 Earth days. Saturn is perhaps the most interesting looking planet. Surrounded by 7 wide, bright rings made mostly of ice. Jupiter and Uranus also have rings, though they are harder to see than Saturn's. Although not closest to the Sun, Venus is the hottest planet because its thick atmosphere of mostly carbon dioxide traps in the heat of the sunlight that reaches the surface of the planet. The average temperature on the surface of Venus is 900 degrees Fahrenheit, 481 degrees Celsius. Mars is the planet most like Earth, with a thin atmosphere and a surface that has mountains and valleys, extinct volcanoes, and what looks like dried-up riverbeds. Scientists wonder if some form of life once existed there. They have been trying for years to figure out a way for humans to explore that planet. Only Earth has liquid water on its surface, which is necessary for life as we know it. Without water, plants could not grow, and without plants, oxygen, the gas essential for animal life, would not be released into the atmosphere.